Koko nyamiri, nyamiri, koko nyamiri, nyamiri. Ibole, ibole, ibobonu, ndamamihe. Ibole, ibole, ibobonu, ndamamihe. Ebulianyelu, 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 ebulianyelu. Anamabara na ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konyo seke. Anamabara no ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye seke. Igbo bụ n'ndike, ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ndike, ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ndike, ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ndike. Koko nyamini, nyamini. Ụlọ nsọ gị Chukwu ka ị na-abata, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Anya bịawa ịsọpụrụ gị ugbu a, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Chukwu nna n'ụlọ gị ka ị na-akpọ gị, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Otito na-adịrị gị mgbe niile, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ụmụ eliwa yikọta n'otu, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ka anyị jikọọ ofe ya ofufe Gọdian, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Gọdianism bụ ịhụnanya n'udo, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Butere anyị ụzọ kpetara anyị azụ, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru.
Day one, good morning to all of you. Mamano, may all go well for each and every one of you gathered here underneath the sound of my voice. I welcome you to another episode of Chiism Live. I would like to bring in my guests today before we proceed. My co-host, Dibia Yudi Onyoha. Before we go any further, Dibia Ndewo.
Ndewo, you guys here? Okay, Madu. You Maggie? How's everything? How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I feel good, blessed. And let us bring in Dibia Chedozie, a special Sunday guest. Yeah, that's my brother.
If you marry a cow, you bet you
I don't know. They won't.
car.
I wanted to, first of all, thank you both for being here. And I just wanted us to start with pouring libations, but I want us to do it collectively. I want you all to hear, because I want to share some thoughts with our ancestors and everybody else who joined us today. Can join us wherever you are. Happy rising, happy rising, happy rising. We thank Chineke and the ancestors for giving us this opportunity to see the sun rise, and may we also have the opportunity to see it set. We are blessed. Many did not see this day. Here we are. I say it all the time, walking amongst the living. What a blessing that is. What a blessing that is. So no matter what's going on in your world, at your end, just know that you are very fortunate. Oh, in that whole time, you are one of the lucky few. So welcome, welcome. Let me start by giving honors to our spiritual leader and mentor, Hanke Okonyoha, and Noha Ngozi Onyoha, for steering us toward self-actualization and intellectual thinking. Before we proceed, let us take this moment and pour libations. I find this very, very important today because there's so much going on in our world. We really need spiritual intervention. So I wanted a lengthy libations. So wherever you are, if you have a bowl or some water and you have a plant, anything will do. Just put it by your side or put it on the table, however you want to do it. Let's just start this conversation today with pouring libations. Here's mine. I have my contraption, if I may use that expression. Here's my bowl, very colorful, if you will. I don't know if you see that. And then, of course, my libations cup. And so let us all start by asking the ancestors, Chineke and the ancestors, we are gathered here. May they recognize my voice today, our voices. We're gathered here to honor their presence and seek their blessings. So we pour libations, say, as an offering, a sacred act of remembrance. And I want both of you, please, to join me in saying, Ise. Are you joining me in saying, Ise? I don't hear you.
Oh, you say,
Yeah.
you say,
We pour water. I'm using water as an offering. A sacred act of remembrance is the act of pouring of libation. So, but I'm pouring it with water, the source of life. He say, to symbolize our connection to divine Chineke and the ancestors who came before us. He said, as water flows, may our spirits be cleansed and renewed. He said, we pour libation to honor our ancestors whose wisdom and guidance continue to inspire us. Whether we know it or not, they are us wherever we are. We acknowledge their sacrifices and the legacy that they have left behind. We are that legacy. Whether we know it or not, we are the legacy they left behind. May their spirits guide us in our journey and grant us all our blessings. We accept all that they give us. We pour libations to those who believe in deities, whatever it is you believe in, the divine forces that shape the world. We pour libations in their honor. We recognize your power, Chineke. We recognize your power and constant. We seek your favor. May you bestow upon us your protection, abundance, and harmony. We say, as we pour libations, speak the names of our ancestors. Please call the names of your ancestors. He say, all of our ancestors who have achieved the ripe old age of 80, we pour libations to them. We offer our prayers and gratitude, knowing that they hear us and guide us on our path. May this libation ceremony, simple as it is and brief as it is, strengthen us, strengthen our connection to the divine, and deepen our reverence for our ancestors. May their presence be felt and their blessings be received. He said, I ask each one of you to offer a brief prayer as well. We'll start with you, Dibia Yudi. Offer a brief prayer as well.
Chineke, anyị na-ekele gị na mma mmiri n'imere anyị, arụsi ike inyere anyị, ogologo ndụ inyere anyị, ọmụmụ inyere anyị, ife ahụ eji izi ụzọ ụmụ inyere anyị. Chineke, anyị na-ekele gị. Ọ machi bụrụ Chineke, anyị na-arịọ gị ka ọ bụrụkwa ahụ mma mma bụ ife ahara afụ. Ife ọbụla metara aka ka ọ gara anyị ọgụ nzụ. Anyị bụ nnụnụ adịghị efe akụ isi osisi. Ebeberu ugeberu nke si ibe ebela nku akwa ya. Biko site ugbu a na-aga n'ihu, onwe ife ọjọọ nọ anyị n'ifu, nọrọ anyị n'azụ, nọrọ anyị n'aka nri, nọrọ anyị n'aka ekpe, nọrọ n'elu, nọrọ n'ala. Chineke biko wepụ ya site ugbu a ruo mgbe na-ebighị ebi. Ọfọ ise o.
You say, Dibia, Biko, offer your prayers today.
Okike kere ụwa, ndị ichie niile, mmụọ niile anyị na-akpọkụkwa mgbe anyị so n'nzukọ nụrụ anyị ụbọchị taa ka ọ gasịchara anyị. Anyị ga-adọ ndụ ka nka na ọganihu ga-abụrụ nke anyị ọgachi ga na-agaji anya oge niile. Ihe ọbụla anyị tiri aka ga na-agaji. Akụ anyị ga-eji wee na-egbo mkpa ọmakọ anyị. Ọgbakọ anyị. Ihe ọbụla anyị tinye aka wụ maka nkwalite ihe gbasara omenala ọdịnala, ọ ga-agaziri anyị. Akụ anyị ga-eji wee na-egbo mkpa gbasara ihe omenala ọmakọ anyị. Anyị sị anyị ga na-ehe ochi na ihe ike na ahụ udo. Unu kpuchicha anyị chia na anyị ndo. Ije anyị ije siri were, ije awele, ije eje alọ, mma ihe ga-eso anyị. Anyị si mahadum Chiefs mahadum. Ọrịa agaji, ọnwa ya ga-eti tipu, anwụ ya ga-achapụ, kpọkpandị ya ga-amụka n'oge ebighị ebi. Si mgbe ọ na-eru mgbe anyị nwa m ga-eme ka anyị na-abịakwute ndị ichie. Otu unere na-eme tufu ọ kpọọ nkụ ya mụọ nwa, anyị ga-amụta ụmụ ndụka anyị. M ga-ebukwara ihe gbasara ihe ọmụmụ Chiizm bụrụ ya na-aga n'ihu. Otu aka ọ ya dịgide otu ụbọchị mgbe anyị nwa na-alọkwa ụwa, Chiizm ahazie ka ọha ọsa mbara dịka osimiri. Otu aka anyị kpere ya gazie.
Ọfọ ya gazie nu. Ta udo dịrị unu. I felt every prayer. My body, my spirit, my soul needed that talking to today. I needed to see and hear that energy spread around us because our world is in trouble. And if we are strong as people, then perhaps we can change our condition. Because there's a lot of mental, well, I don't know what word to use. There's a lot of mental decay. It sounds rather strong, but it's true. Many people are suffering today because of all the confusion. There's so much confusion, and we're in this scientific world, and so our minds soak up all sorts of information. Many of it not good for us. Many of it challenging. Many of it confusing. And so I needed us to, pray for the world today, call upon all the ancestors of the world, white, black, Asian, Native American, Indian, whatever the ancestors are, wherever they are, they need to kind of reach out to their children, because we're just running amok. We're running astray. The world needs healing. We need healing, seriously. And so I'm hoping that the prayers we offer today, both to the ancestors and the individual prayers that you offered, would touch some people. Today, our conversation, as you can see, is science and modernity can challenge traditional religious beliefs, and can science and modernity challenge traditional religious beliefs? How does that happen? What I want to lay right now is the foundation for our conversation. And I'm going to itemize all we're going to talk about as it pertains to this particular topic. And then we can take each one of them and have a discussion about it. So how does science and modernity challenge traditional religious beliefs? How does it do that? Well, here are several explanations, of which we'll go into details as we go along. First of all, there's the scientific explanations. Science provides naturalistic explanations for various phenomena which can challenge religious explanations that rely on supernatural and divine intervention. Many traditional religions, obviously, rely on supernatural and divine intervention. For instance, when you look at the theory of evolution, challenges the theory of evolution challenges the literal interpretation of creation stories by religious traditions. So we're going to talk about that. What does all that mean? And we're going to talk about it from our own perspectives as African spiritualists. We'll talk about our own traditional religions. How does science challenge our interpretation of our own creation stories and our religious traditions? Secondly, we're going to talk about historical and archaeological findings. We know that advances in historical and archaeological research can challenge the historical accuracy of religious texts and narratives. New discoveries may raise questions about the authenticity or interpretation of religious events and figures. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to take into consideration historical and archaeological findings as we discuss our own religious events and figures. How does that impact our own interpretations? Our interpretations, are they authentic? And why do we feel they're authentic? So we're going to talk about historical and archaeological findings. So bear that in mind. The third thing we'll talk about is ethical dilemmas. Ethical dilemmas. Now, scientific advancements such as genetic engineering or assisted reproductive technologies raise ethical questions, all right, that can conflict with our own religious teachings. For example, there are issues about cloning. That's scientific. Okay, cloning can reproduce things that look alike, that actually have the same genetics. STEM research can be used to heal or end-of-life care. Okay, from a scientific position, it can challenge our own traditional religious beliefs on the sanctity of life. You know, you birth a child and that's it. You don't birth a child through any other means. Well, that may be what our religious philosophies, okay, embrace as traditional, as constant, as sanctity, as the sanctity of life. But can that work hand in hand with science? We'll talk about that. How about secularization and shifting values? You know, one of the things that modernity brings is it changes in societal values and norms that conflict with our own traditional religious teachings. All right, as societies become more secular, more diverse, more people with different ideas, religious beliefs and practices can be seen as outdated or incompatible with contemporary understanding of human rights, like gender equality, LGBTQ rights, blah, 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 blah. Science has a different value than our own understanding of human rights. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. And also, last but not least, as you well know, the internet gives us increased information, access to information. What that does is that the internet and the globalization that it brings with it has made information more accessible. And it's what it does is allow individuals to explore diverse perspectives, all right? And that challenges traditional religious beliefs. Exposure to different cultures, religions, and worldviews can lead to questions and reevaluation of one's own beliefs. And so when you reevaluate, is it a bad thing? Is it a bad thing? So we're going to talk about that. So, but I believe that it is important to note that even though science and modernity challenge some aspects of traditional religious beliefs, they're not inherently incompatible. Incompatible is the word. Okay, so there are many individuals and religious communities find ways to reconcile their faith with scientific advancements and modern values by adopting more metaphorical or symbolic interpretations of their religious texts, or by emphasizing the compatibility between faith and reason. I said a mouthful, but those are the things we're going to talk about today. So I'd like us to focus on addressing each specific question that I have raised here. So let us start with, give you a change here. Scientific explanations. Science provides naturalistic explanations for various phenomena, which can challenge religious explanations that rely on supernatural divine intervention. What are your thoughts on that, stemming from your background as a traditional spiritualist?
Yeah, I think if we are to do that, we have to look at the encroachment of Western civilization upon our own indigenous African thought system. There are certain things that we have to take note of, beginning from with the ancient Greeks down to the Romans, and then to the modern Europeans. We see that the way they look at the word ontological is not the way we look at the word ontological. Their spirituality is different from ours. They see contradictions in nature as antagonistic. We see contradictions in nature as complementary. And so when your spirituality sees contradictions in nature as antagonistic, the tendency is that for where there are two things, one must eliminate the other or dominate the other necessarily. And so there has been a culture of extremes, not a culture of trying to harmonize the opposites, but that one of the opposites should dominate the other or eliminate the other. And so that kind of spirituality gave birth to a philosophy that is monistic, reductionistic, in the sense that it's either you follow the idealistic premise holistically, or you follow the materialistic premise holistically. So attempts to reconcile the two perspectives have been there by some spiritualists, philosophers, intellectuals, but the birth of science in the West was such that it meant the departure from spirituality, what you call idealistic spirituality, to the conquest of matter. And so here, faith was redefined. Faith was redefined to be the willpower to pursue your rational projection. So faith became something that deals with the heart, willpower, to pursue our rational projection. And then the spirituality or philosophy or metaphysics of empathy was put aside. Then came forward the metaphysics of dissection. And so dissection is that the human being wants to master the world on his own, on her own, without any interference. And that crystallized in the Enlightenment period, which was between the 17th, middle 17th to early 18th century Europe. The philosopher that represents that was Immanuel Kant, and he was the last defender of the age of the Enlightenment. And he wrote in one of his books that the chant of the Enlightenment is the separate ode, meaning that dare to use your intelligence to emancipate yourself from self-imposed tutelage without any external interference. So he made pure reason, finite reason, human reason, the beginning and end of all reality, putting out God, putting out anything is of external interference. Then when we get to Jean-Paul Sartre, God does not exist. When we get to Nietzsche before Jean-Paul Sartre, God is dead. And Nietzsche, in his magnus opus, Thus Spake Zarathustra, said, they Europeans killed God. How? By moving from religious spirituality to what they call scientific spirituality, ruled by crass materialism. Now, the focus was the conquest of nature. And so, like Descartes wrote in his meditation, whatever did not come to the mind clear and distinct, sure, clear and distinct, should be nullified. So that if religion cannot present us with knowledge that is clear and distinct, indubitable, push it aside. If spirituality cannot afford us knowledge that is scientific, put it aside. So much so that David Hume advised that all books on spirituality, metaphysics, divinity, they do not say anything about calculation and experimentation, which was the focus of the Europeans for the Renaissance. So burn all of them, set the libraries that contain such books ablaze. And then Kant said, well, things concerning spirituality, all those things said by spirituality, by religion, by idealistic metaphysics, they do not add value to us, because the value of the Enlightenment, the value of Europe from the Renaissance upwards, was the conquest of the physical world, and they cared less about the spiritual world, and so they went headlong into it, and that also led to what they call human freedom. It became the foundation for human freedom. And so the human being was now given autonomy, what they call self-autonomy or self-sovereignty. And society now moved on from the definition of the individual, moved from being a member of a group to being the center focus of the society, the center focus of the universe. And so with extreme individualism, liberalism set in. And then with liberalism came neoliberalism. And with neoliberalism came globalization. So you see, all the isms governing the world today is against the ancient traditions of whether it is Africans or it is in Western. You started the program on a good note, all the ancestors, whether they are Western, whether they are Africans, Asians, because they gave credence to the cosmic and the spiritual, no matter the contradictions involved in the indigenous way of spirituality. They gave credence to the spiritual. But modern science, modernity, what modernity represents is whatever cannot be investigated empirically, whatever cannot be reduced to material knowledge, cannot pass muster as knowledge. In that process, the human being was reduced to material interpretation, and what matters is consciousness. Other parts of the human mind, like the subconscious, the unconscious, that deal with things spiritual, were set aside. It's only of recent that they're going back to it, but even at that, they are going back to it following the naturalistic, materialistic perspective. And so, insofar as we do not dig into our spirituality and make it a foundation for science, the Western scientific spirituality, materialistic, naturalistic spirituality, will keep dominating us and they keep dictating the tone. There are civilizations that are trying to find a balance, like the Asians, particularly the Indians, and to some extent the Chinese and the Koreans, but they themselves, for the fact that they have to compete with the West, are also driven along that naturalistic, materialistic spirituality that forgoes the unity between the physical world and the unseen forces. So the unseen forces are put aside. If there are unseen forces, they are to be studied and also purified and conquered. Whatever cannot be conquered, purified, studied, and made to come under the control of the human being doesn't exist. That orientation is what permeates and persists for now. That's how I would say it for now.
Beautiful. Yeah. We can't hear you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I was muted. Right. Well, thank you for that contribution. Maybe your thoughts. Wonderful. Your thoughts.
Run that question
Would
by
you like
me. Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing is that the science and modernity can challenge traditional religious beliefs in several ways, right? Scientific explanations. Science provides naturalistic explanations for various phenomena, which can challenge religious explanations that rely on supernatural or divine intervention. For example, the theory of evolution challenges the literal interpretation of creation stories in many religious traditions. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. Clash of two worlds, religion and science. Strange bedfellows fellows that refuse to sleep together, right? And we worry about trying to divorce the two and establish this boundary, and then negate the fact that life is about duality of existence, the physical and spiritual existence. Also, when you talk about science and religion, for the most part, and I don't mean you, but I mean when people talk about it, the religious perspective, is always the biblical, stuff. It's always Christianism, Judaism, or maybe Islam, but it's always within the Abrahamic realm, and all of them share the story of Adam and Eve. In African spirituality, for example, there's really not much of any divorce between science and religion. As a matter of fact, in Nsibidi, in Chiism, Nsibidimbo, I think it's verse 6 or something like that, Chineke said to the first man and woman, Ifenta and Ada, everything that I have created, all the animals, all the plants are for your mama, for your goodness and well-being, and none of them is intended to harm you. If you mix them in the appropriate cosmic relationship, the result will always be to enhance your happiness and existence on earth. So right off the bat, the message to Ifenta and Ada, the first man and woman, is about discovery, not ignorance. And science is about discovery. There's no divorce between the two. Now, when you go to the Christian context, that's where most of the divorce is experienced, because in the beginning, God intended for Adam and Eve to remain ignorant, no knowledge. If you gain knowledge, then your existence on earth will no longer be possible. What will destroy you is knowledge. But in the African context, in Chiism, what will help your existence on this earth and make you fruitful is discoveries. From trial and error, you will be able to determine those things that are good for you to help perpetuate your existence on earth. I am in you. You will always hear my faint voice in you telling you what to do in times of trouble, what is right and what is wrong. Discoveries was the intent right after creation. So what we discover in science, and when you try to marry science and religion, for example, some things, for example, I'll use a biblical example, and I'll marry it with science. Biblically speaking, I think it's Sodom and Gomorrah, one of those, Pompeii, one of them, Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by a volcano because they sinned. That is the religious explanation for this phenomenon, because they had none scientifically, either because of the fact they just didn't have that knowledge or they just suppressed it. But the truth of the matter scientifically is that you built a city next to a volcano, and part of nature and science is that at some point, for creation to continue to perpetuate, the volcano will have to explode at some point. And if you happen to be there and get caught up, it has nothing to do with punishment. Rather, the fact that you are in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or should I say the right place at the wrong time? That's all there is to it. You see, so Christianism or Abrahamic religion, as it evolved, or as they all evolved, all three of them evolved, concentrated more on power and wealth. And I'm almost confident that a lot of these popes and people that are involved in these religions understand science, at least to the best of their ability at that particular point in time, based on the discoveries at that time. But power, money, control is really what is responsible for the clash of science and religion in the Western world. It's really about power. Because I'm sure at that time, scientifically speaking, when the Pope was sick, they just didn't sit there praying over the Pope, waiting for a spiritual intervention. I'm sure the Pope probably drank some herbal tea or something that will help get him better. And whatever it is that the Pope was drinking, whatever tea he was drinking or herb the Pope was drinking to make the Pope feel better, it is based on science. So the divorce is not really there. It is the narrative, the intent behind that narrative, that makes a lot of people subscribe to the idea that there's a difference between the two. I don't see any difference. And as a matter of fact, when I went to the United Nations, I was having this discussion with some scientists, that was at the UN in 1978. And he was trying to convince Ahai that the universe, started with the Big Bang theory, that it had nothing to do with God, blah, 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 blah. I asked him one simple question. Can you prove to me that Chineke was not responsible for the Big Bang? He couldn't do it. He couldn't prove it. So for me, there is no disconnect between the two. The only disconnect I see is, number one, the idea that, Abrahamic religions in particular, and a lot of religious bodies out there are really more interested in power as opposed to trying to, investigate this world that we live in and all the wonders of nature and all the science and knowledge that we still have not discovered, that is there waiting on us to discover, because in African spirituality, we have never differentiated between science and religion, because God instructed the first man and woman to undertake the journey of discovery, of science, to find answers that will help them walk through life and create generations after them. That's my 2 cents into this conversation.
And I thank you. I thank you for your contribution. Excellent. That particular topic is so ingrained in most scientific gatherings, you know, just like Dibia Chejere said, and you said as well, it's like there's such a desire to differentiate between the known and the unknown and make the known superior to the unknown. Most of the African or traditional religions are focused on things that mold the people's way of life, their value system, their conduct, their interpersonal relationships. They see that work. Okay, you may not be able to put it under the microscope necessarily, but it works for the people and they use that. Let's not forget, there were times when we didn't know anything about science in the sense as it is today, you know. But life continued. People did the right thing. People believed in a superior being based on how they see nature, how they see the world. You know, this world just didn't happen by happenstance. Somebody was responsible for it, right? And so they gave supplication to this somebody in some manner or form, depending on your culture. Okay. Well, science comes to dispute that. Well, that cannot be true. You know, we can't prove it under the microscope, et cetera, et cetera. But how I see them coming together is, I personally accept science. I think science is healthy. They give you a lot of information to add to your repertoire. But science doesn't know everything, because there are some things they can't explain. You see, what was her name? We have somebody posted something here. Let me share that again. It's Akachi, I think it was, that posted this. What is it? She says that science says you hold an iron pot with charcoal and wood burning, it will burn your hands. And yet they are traditionalists that can walk on coal. They can hold something hot. They can do some things. I know of women, when I was expecting, when I was giving birth to my first child, I learned that pain is in the mind. But science tells you that the process of birth is so painful, it's natural for you to scream and yell. All right? That's the scientific, explanation about, why women scream while they birth and all of that. Well, to some degree, of course. But then there's the other side of it, where you can condition your mind. It has nothing to do with science, so to speak. But you can condition your mind. When I was having my daughter for 17 and a half hours, I did not scream, and I'm not making this up. I did not scream, because I learned that pain is in the mind. You can control it. You can control your pain. It's in your mind. How many of you, when you go and get an injection, it doesn't bother you? Me, they bring that big needle and they put it in there and they're telling me, sorry, oh, I'm so sorry. And I look at it like it's nothing. The pain is in the mind. I've been spiritually conditioned to believe that I am in control of pain. And so if I don't accept that as pain, it doesn't happen. And yet science will tell you that you should be screaming. You should be in pain. It hurts. You see what I'm saying? So if you look at what Akachi had written, this is what science tells you. This will cause you pain. And yet, if you have been conditioned spiritually, you can overcome what science has predicted should be the outcome of whatever that situation is, the scenario. Okay, so whereas there are some scientific explanations of human phenomena, of natural phenomena, okay, you can't take that from science because science has a lot to add to what we don't know. But then there are some things we don't know that is spiritual. It's something that conditions you to think a certain way, to be stronger, to be more powerful, to be more tolerant, so to speak, of pain or things of that nature. So I was in during the Fahankra. You did one moment. During the Fahankra, there was gosh, what is his name? Nana Frepong. Nana Frepong was a Godian priest. All right, and people used to come and watch him, you know, and they'll have this coal, they have this section of the floor with hot coal, and he will walk on it like it's nothing, and he'll take his time. He doesn't rush through it. He didn't rush through it. He just walked, just slowly walked on it, and people used to come just to watch this man walk on coal. And there's some other people, religious people, who do that. But the point being that there are some things that science does not necessarily well, they can. If it does happen, then they'll tell you it's a mind over matter. That could be that. But the bottom line is, many traditional religions teach you that. They teach you that. So you don't reject science and all its ramifications, but you don't reject tradition. You don't reject traditional religions, because traditional religions have a lot that science can't explain. But traditional religions explain that to their adherents and much to their satisfaction. And so it should not be thrown away because it doesn't have empirical research behind it. Well, if it works for you, that's empirical to me. If I've done research, I've done something over and over and over, and it works for me, then it works. It works. It makes sense. That's why I use the scenario where I was having my children. I never screamed because I was conditioned to believe that. It's in your mind. If you embrace pain, you see pain, or you feel pain. If you don't embrace it, you wouldn't. So for me personally, as far as this particular point is, science can and indeed explain natural phenomena scientifically with empirical facts. But also traditional spirituality also explains some of their tenets based on what they have experienced and also what works for their spiritual foundations. Okay. All right. You had your hand up. I wanted to go to the next
I
thing.
was just
You had your hand up.
Yeah, I was trying to piggyback on the question that Akachi had, and just to add a little bit of perspective to it. First of all,
Yes.
science and religion, when it comes to religion, spirituality, that divorce is usually Abrahamic. And then when you delve into other religions, you come to find out, that the divide is not that, much. Now, in African spirituality, we just pretty much don't have that at all. There's really no divorce. And as far as spiritual hierarchy goes, it's it's the Dibia, the ancestors, it's Chineke. You understand what I'm saying? And the Dibia, and then this knowledge base that you have in this mediation is the Dibia. You have all kinds of Dibia. Okay, Dibia Alpha, Dibia Obaja, Dibia Anchoaja, Dibia Ochoaja, all that stuff. Each one of them associated with a different area of expertise, like divination, diagnosis, ritual expertise, so on and so forth. So that with the Dibias, science is infused into what they do, spirituality is infused into what they do. So you have that marriage right there. There's no distinction, like in the Catholic Church, you have the priests, and none of those priests are involved in anything scientific when it comes to what their duties are. The Archbishop does nothing scientific. He's just there as this supposed voice between you and God, or the hierarchy that you need to channel your prayers through, and finally through the Pope to God, and the Pope who cannot be judged. In Gabon, to address Akachi's stuff just a little bit. In Gabon, and also when we were children in Africa, I used to remember, you know, some Hausa people or Fulanese will come to the house and they will have knives and they will make all kinds of attempts to, you know, stab themselves, and finally the knife isn't going through. In Gabon, they have a rites of passage that happens every 5 years. And they use knives and daggers to slice their bodies and nothing happens. And those same daggers, if you cut a leaf with it, it will cut it right off, smooth, like a razor blade. And yet they could do it. You kind of find out that even though what they were doing was the spiritual ritual, but it had a scientific basis, because before the rituals begin, they rub themselves down with this secret oil that they get from this specific tree. And when you do it, no matter what you try to do, I don't know if you'll stop a bullet, but no matter what you try to do in terms of cutting, not necessarily stabbing, but in terms of cutting or slicing, excuse me, you can't get through. That is science and spirituality married together and presented that way. Then you have people, not just in African culture, East, West Africa, in the Amazon, and I think in China too, Mongolia, there are rainmakers. There are rainmakers in Burma, in the Philippines, in Africa. There are people that make rain, and rainmaking has this spiritual attribute to it because it is a specialized dibia that does the a ritual to make rain. But come to find out that the rain process with all his incantations and everything else is based on the plant that he puts in a pot and lights the fire, and the steam from the pot goes all the way into the sky, and 4 hours later, rain falls. And it's almost standard amongst all cultures. It is religion and science married together and presented that way, as opposed to divorcing the two. That's my perspective as far as you know, science and religion is concerned. To me, it's about who's telling the story.
Yes, yes, yes. Very good. I want to, before we go any further, let me just take a moment and remind viewers and listeners that you are blessed to be here today. You are one of the lucky few. And if you have not acknowledged that, give thanks today. Give thanks, be grateful. Thank Chineke for your breath. Thank Chineke for the capacity to walk, the opportunity to eat. Thank Chineke for your sight. I think that every time that we look at our lives and we were full of frustration, this is not happening, that's not happening. And that's because we're not even taken into stock. We're not realizing that we're already blessed beyond measure. I think the richest person in the world is a man or woman with breath. Would you agree?
Yeah.
That's the richest person. That is where Chineke is working. You may not see it because you're looking at the world from the perspective of the other or the powers that be. And so you neglect what is so powerful that you already have that can change your life if you tap into it and use it to move yourself forward. That's the gift. Ikume is power, more powerful than anything. So I just want us to pause while we're in the middle of our challenges and realize that you're already being blessed. He's fixing it. There's a song that says he's fixing it right now. Chineke knows everything about it. Chineke knows everything about you. Knows what you need. He, she, whatever your phraseology is fixing it. In our case, Chineke, is fixing it. You're already blessed. So start this day with counting your blessings. Don't focus on the negative, because you know the negative is not going to go away. But the blessings, when you get it and you don't appreciate it, you lose it. So be appreciative. Be appreciative. Before we go any further, let me just take this quick moment and share a video. And I'm playing this video, and you guys have seen it before, but I'm playing it because, again, as when we started this program, I had indicated that our lives, our world is in turmoil. There is so much hate. I don't know if you're aware of it. There was you were talking about attempted assassination against Donald Trump. There was attempt. At least that's what we're being told. And then there was Toari. I don't know if I'm saying his name properly. Of Burkina Faso. They are trying to take him out. All that nonsense. That's hate. When you want to fight your enemy, you fight your enemy from a position of strength. The constant anger, constant hate-filled words is what leads people to do things that are destructive. So let us fill our thoughts and our minds with positive things. So I'll play this video that says, stop hate. People, stop hating on each other. We don't engage in killing each other over religion. We don't. It is not our tradition. That's a fact. We even go into each other's shrines and worship there and pour libations in each other's shrine. We don't kill each other because we don't believe or there's a difference between how you give your supplication to the Creator. There is no such thing. That is not the African spiritual way. So if we really want to be a spiritualist, if you really want to be a spiritual person, you have to adopt that African spirituality. Live so I can live. And that's how we create peace in the world. So thank you for your contribution to the first question. Now, the other thing is this has become part of what science uses to discount religious events or religious figures. Historical archaeological findings. Okay, they can determine that something did exist if they can actually determine historical factors as it relates to that, and archaeological findings. So advances in historical and archaeological research can challenge the historical accuracy of religious texts and narratives. All right. New discoveries may raise questions about the authenticity or interpretation of religious events and figures. Divya Chodisi, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thought on that is simple. You see, when you operate science without spirituality, it means you have removed conscience from science. And so when there is no conscience in science, how truthful are those results that we are given about using what they call carbon dating and other things, archaeological processes to test ancient artifacts, ancient discovery of ancient texts and so on and so forth. Because there was one German scientist in the 17th century who gathered skulls from Africa and said those skulls were more close to that of monkeys, and that Africans were close to animals, and that we are the last in evolution. Then it was another German or another French, about a century later, had to subject that German scientist result to further testing and discovered that it was all full of bias. It was all garbage. It was full of emotion. So it was full of emotion. So that's why in philosophy, when we talk about philosophy of science, what we query is the methodology of science. And that's exactly what you and what we've been talking about in this particular program, especially Divya Choja has taken on that. what drives science is the mental orientation of the human being. Science is an instrument in the hands of human beings. It's a mentality of taking out whatever is not empirically proven to be materialistically interpreted or naturalistically interpreted. And so it's taken out. And that comes from a spirituality that divides this world from the other world. And don't forget their spirituality of the Caucasians. Mostly you find it in Christianity and Islam. Heaven is out of this world. And then God is out of this world. The energy that drives this world is out of this world. That's why for them, their mover is in the outer world, and this world is a fake world. And so for them, our bodies are prisons for our spirits. So the spirit came from outside this realm, this earth, to be imprisoned in the body. Now, that kind of spirituality will lead or give birth to a science that is also very much antagonistic of spirituality. Because in the first instance, their spirituality was antagonistic of the material world. And so when the science will evolve in the West, it went to the other extreme, that which their spirituality had ignored for centuries or millennia became the focus for them, thereby leaving out whatever is spiritual, because for them there is no connect. And that's because their spirituality ab initio had only discriminated between what is seen from what is not seen. That is not what we have when you come to Africa. African spirituality says spirit and matter are married together. They blend together. One cannot do without the other. However, spirit permeates, and it permeates matter. It gives life to matter. It gives substance to matter. Why matter allows spirit to express its thought to the physical world. And so for us, there is no heaven in the hereafter. The heaven is in here. That's why for us, heaven is beneath the earth. But for the Bible and the Quran, beneath the earth is abyss. For us, beneath the earth is where the ancestors go to stay. And it's so if you look at our own world is what Einstein built on. That's what led to, because our world, if we go to Jewish Kabbalah, is very much close to our own world, because they took a whole lot of things from Egypt. We should not forget that they lived in Egypt for 430 years. And so for 11th generation, they lived there. And so if you look at what happened in Einstein's theory of relativism, the principle of conservatism, or what you call conservative principle, that the energy that drives response for motion of a body is inside the body, not outside the body. That was why Einstein was able to solve the problem of motion that Newton could not, because Newton relied on the biblical, Aristotelian, and Aquinas' interpretation of motion being responsible for a world of our own that's relative, and then the absolute world of your mover is responsible for what happens in the moving world. And so everything, the God was thought to be static, but for us it's not like that. For us, everything is in motion. Spirit is in motion, and insofar as spirit impregnates matter, then matter is in motion. And that's why we'll go to divination. When you are divine for, you immediately have to do the sacrifice, because if you allow it to tarry for long, by the time you go back, other circumstances and events or forces will have overtaken that previous divination. And so we have to recast it again and redefine and reinterpret in tandem with the current situation of that individual at that moment. So for us, it's a world of mutation. There's no static moment, no static point. It's only us human beings that are looking for static positions, but the universe has no static point. So we have forever understood this principle of complementarity. So that's why for us, our own theory of a mover is Nkume. that stone that holds the river, that holds the ocean. It's the gravity that holds the ocean. That's nkume. That's the thing, your mover. Because any river or ocean that uproots the stone or the rock that holds it, that gravitates it to the ground.
It's frozen.
Okay, he's frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen.
Okay. Okay. He's
you probably
well, Yudi, why don't you answer that question until he comes back?
Yeah. First of all, science concerns itself with the natural world.
Archaeological findings and historical findings.
Say that again.
The mover is
he's still trying to talk. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I'm saying science concerns itself with the natural world, whereas religion concerns itself with the supernatural and also its relationship with the natural, which in African spirituality and Chiism, that's what the concern is. That's the crux. That's the belly, the heart of the whole idea of being a dibia. You are a spiritualist and a scientist at the same time, because when you try to identify issues with people, you normally try to identify a spiritual and also find out how that spiritual, a problem has led or manifested into a physical one. Science doesn't like religion. Science does not like conscience, because religion, as Dibeche Dozier has pointed out, tries to hold them accountable. But that's in Abrahamic religions. I cannot say the same thing for other religions or African spirituality, and vice versa. Religion doesn't like science, from the Abrahamic religious point of view, because science encroaches into their power base, their structure, the idea that your salvation or your physical, well-being cannot just be entrusted to the church alone. There are also other areas to explain your condition, therefore reducing the power that the church has over you. That's the disconnect between the church and science, between the West and science, between Abrahamic religions and science, because science encroaches into their power. Why they were established in the first place. It wasn't established, to mediate between, man and the creator. It was there to keep you subservient while a certain group of people dominate you. Keep you poor, keep you down, enrich themselves. It's always been the history of Western religion. But in Africa, it's a totally different thing. There is no disconnect. Religion is science, and science is religion. It is the duality of existence, the physical life and the spiritual. And how do you marry the two? And also, how does science and religion affect human behavior? How can you use science and religion to control people? Religion is the business of mind control. Science says no. Some of those minds that you're controlling can increase my bank account. If I reduce that ignorance so that they stop depending on some spiritual explanation and go buy my medicine or drug, I will make money. It becomes a difference or a problem between capitalism, economics, science, and religion. So in the end, we're all being very dishonest with one another, as opposed to complementing one another. Each one establishes a power base, and you continue to have this disconnect. And this disconnect is what has led to most of the problems that you see in the world today, from wars and the results of war, which includes diseases, famine, and some of the atrocities that has been committed under the sun, from the gassing of Jews to Leopold in Congo in Africa, to the rape of Nanking in China, to countless of atrocities committed by people like Genghis Khan and all that kind of stuff. That disconnect between science and religion is a problem because it is causing friction that shouldn't exist.
But you know what? One of the things, good points you did. But one of the things that we need to be very clear on: who defined science?
Yep.
The word science. Who defined it? Who coined it? Why is it your understanding of natural phenomena defines truth? And the way I knew truth before you came with your definition is unscientific. You may have, through archaeological finding and historical finding, determined that there is no proof of what I'm saying, but then that is based on your definition of science. You are determining what is real and what is not real based on your definition. I'm a scientist, okay? But I think it's very, very important that we understand that the African spirituality defines its own science in a way that helps the individual to overcome challenges and obstacles. It is based on what they see, what they have experienced, their environment. That's their science. Now, you may have done archaeological finding, or you may have found information that we promote as scientific in us, as far as you're concerned. But you want to prove that what we call science doesn't exist, or what we claim exists doesn't exist. So what do? You say, well, we did historical research and we didn't find it, so it doesn't exist. But just because it didn't exist based on your archaeological research or your definition of science doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean, how far do you go back? How far does science go back? How old is humanity? How far do you go back? Perhaps you didn't find it at the time you started doing your research, but way back when, it may have existed. The point I'm trying to make here is we can accept science based on its empirical findings and all of that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to give up what we believe. We can marry both. We can say, okay, empirically, this is what you have found to be the case. Archaeologically, this is what you discovered. Historically, this is what you discovered. But it doesn't necessarily define what I know, what my spirituality, what traditional religions believe. That belief system doesn't necessarily have to be negated, because that belief system serves a purpose. We have to hold on to it. Monachiso, I am one with God, right? Well, you can tell me there's nothing that proves that. Well, to me, it's what gives me my confidence. So to me, it's true. That is how we were raised in our spirituality. Monachiso, I am one with the Creator. Believing that gives me strength. I don't need you to dismantle that. You can try. You can tell me there's no such truth. But that is to satisfy your own curiosity, not mine. I've already defined mine. Mine has already been defined for me, and I embrace it and I accept it. When we say that, we are God to each other. You may try and disprove, or how can you be God to each other? Does that make you God? That's not the point we're trying to make. It doesn't make you God. The point we're trying to make is not for you to determine that I am God necessarily. is that I know that whatever it is that we want God to do for us, we are the ones that will do it for another person. We achieve our goals and objectives together. Our goals and objectives come together because we work together. So that means that what is the word? You get your blessings through another human being. No matter if you pray till you're blue in the face, it's going to take another human being. So that's we say that's what we mean by that. Doesn't mean necessarily that I'm automatically God. I'm just saying that it's through me that the blessings comes to somebody else. No amount of prayer, no amount of fasting is going to make anything happen. It's still going to take another human being. So that means you're through that understanding, we have to honor each other. We have to be kind to each other. We have to understand that if the person that you abuse today may be the person that will give you what you need tomorrow. That may be the person that will give you a job. Yesterday, I showed a video where this woman was in the street. She was in the street and she had no food. She had 3 kids. She's walking from one place to the other, no roof over her head. She hadn't eaten for days and she was sick. Her daughter was prostituting herself to make money for her mother. Then she contracted HIV/AIDS and died, 17 years old. Now she has a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old who will be gravitating towards what their big sister did to take care of their sick mother and their little brother. They had been doing all of that, going around, and the mother was contemplating suicide until, see, Chineke connects the dots through other human beings until the national director of my organization, of OMSI, saw her at the door crying, her door crying. Then the national director called me. You see what I'm saying? Connecting the dots, called me to tell me, to show me the video of this woman crying, desperate, trying to commit suicide. Zainab is the national director, and she told me, if you commit suicide, what about these kids? I'm trying to say to you that science is a good thing, but then you can't always empirically determine what's going to happen in every situation based on what science, knows. But it's the Chineke connecting the dot. That spiritual energy went into Zainab. Zainab contacted me. I saw this woman crying. I said, Zainab, we've got to do something. What can we do? She said, Queen Mother, please, we have to help this woman. We said, okay, I'm going to ask for help. And I got help. I told her, give this woman some food, give her some money through the care program that we have. Give her some food, give her some money, get her out of the streets. And here, get her home. She said, what? I said, get her home, find her home. She found a really run-down place that was quite disgusting as far as I'm concerned, but that's what she thought from the little money I gave for them to feed and all of that, that if she used 10,000 of that money, then she could use it and get a place. And it was a horrid place that had gutter running through it. But the people were very excited. They were happy with that little thing they got. And I said, that's not enough. That is not enough. That is a mother with 3 little children, young children. We have to help more. So we went and got her a nice place, paid for it for a whole year. And they were going to sleep on the floor. I said, well, we can't have them sleeping on the floor. So for each child, we got a mattress, bed sheets, pillowcase. Mother, we got her bed. If you had seen that video, this woman just said, you took me out of the gutter and put me up here. I don't know what to say. That was Chineke working based on our value system that had nothing to do with research, what they call research. It had to do with our own human values established by our spirituality. They can go hand in hand. It depends on who is defining science. Our definition of science may not be your definition of science. Our spiritual definition is Madubuchibe. Yuji, am I telling the truth here?
Is okay? It's true. Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? So you come with your definition, which is okay. We get it. But just because you can't find some historical or some archaeological finds doesn't mean that the traditional religious interpretation of these people, of religious figures in their religion, doesn't mean it's not right. It may not exist based on your scientific research, but in the minds of the people who use that knowledge to do good, it exists. Whatever you believe, right? You did. Is that not true?
You define your destiny.
Been frozen. That's it. That's why you had been frozen, so you didn't get to finish your thoughts. So go ahead and finish your thoughts.
Yeah, I just wanted to finish up by saying, in philosophy of history, we philosophically examine what history is, its process of documentation, known as historiography, and so on and so forth. And we see that, philosophically speaking, history entails a problem of knowledge. And the problem of knowledge is what constitutes historical knowledge. And you cannot free yourself of bias. There is no way one who is not black will record African history without some bias. Just as like there's no way I was write about African history without some bias favoring African history. So there is these bias when you are trying to excavate artifacts of the past and to date them. We know the politics that have occurred between Sheikh Anta Diop and the European archaeologists and historians. They go to ancient, to the underground achievements in ancient Egypt pyramids. They come up with half-baked truths, and they show are white people carrying gifts, but they don't show that the person, the pharaoh they are carrying the gifts to is a black. And until Sheikh Anta Diop had to go there and snap the full picture. Then we also know the historical controversy concerning Queen Nefertiti. They said the Queen Nefertiti was white. Meanwhile, they bruised the nose of Queen Nefertiti and gave it, in the process of remolding the nose, they gave it the Caucasian nose. And then Magwali also experienced, had a nasty experience when he was invited in the US there, I think Maryland, one of the primary schools in Maryland, to come and unveil a mascot for the primary school games. And he got there, he found that the mascot unveiled about him was white. And that's when he started his revolt. And he now, when he went into the archives, the hidden books, that's part of what he wrote, show that Imhotep is the father of medicine. But openly in schools all over the world, we are taught, especially in Africa, that Hippocrates, who was taught by Imhotep, is the father of medicine. So what you call history, like Napoleon Bonaparte said, is a lie, the fable agreed upon. And I remember I was debating these with a professor of archaeology and history while we were both at University of Ghana, Legon, doing a sabbatical. So we are talking about certain African perspective to history. And then, of course, he told me, say, all these I'm saying, scholars in Oxford will not accept those my story, that is story. And I told him, I said, yes, the scholars in Oxford are trained to defend everything English. They will even not date Roman history well, even though they are both Caucasian. The scholars in Oxford are meant to defend the English perspective of history. So, and that is the thing about history. You train your people to defend their perspective about history. So history is, if it's a story, the thing that makes history is time. That time trajectory has to be determined by you, because there's a politics of dating system. The politics of dating system is that I determine the time chart. So if you look at the Caucasians, every civilization before the rise of the West is dated downwards. So Egyptian civilization, BC, counted downwards. Mesopotamia counted downwards. Babylonia counted downwards. But from the realization of the Caucasian, AD is counted upwards. The Arabs do the same. Before the Hijrah, every history before the Hijrah is counted downwards. From the Hijrah, Muhammad's Hijrah from Mecca to Medina is counted up. That is when their own realization picked up. Like the Igbo will say, when you attain your historical realization, that's your morning, that's your dawn. So it does not mean that when we read history, the dating system is political. If you remove time from history, history becomes story. If you remove time from history, all the stories in history happen at all time and at no time. And the thing about history is the time, and the timing, the chronology is not exactly how it happened, that is arranged. Because even by the things we witness, if you are a reporter and there's no way you're going to report events exactly how they happen, for you to capture the attention of the reader, you may take the last event and make it the topic, make it the front headline of the news. But that isn't what happened first. It's the event that happened last, but you bring it to the first so that you can capture the people's attention. And that is arrangement. It is the power of the mind. So in history, thought organizes events. And insofar as human thought organizes events, it will organize the event the way it wants. So it's left for us, like Okedibia was saying, for us to tell our history in our own perspective, because we determine what history is. If you remove human beings from the center, there will be no history. There will be no story. So storytelling in time trajectory is an invention of the human mind. And we must invent our own trajectory, chronology, historiography of how to tell our history. If not, we'll always be downtrodden.
That's right. They were beautiful. Thank you. You guys are doing a marvelous job today. That is just it. And that's why it was important for us today to go into real intellectual discussion about religion and science. It's so important because when there's all the discussion or conversation, however you want to phrase that we're not scientific. Traditional religion is backwards. It's not scientific, and this, that, and the other. People don't understand what is the definition of science anyway, and who defined it. You came in a little bit after I had said this. Who defined the word? Who coined the word science? What did we call it? What did we call it? What was it? What was it in our own language? What did we call it?
We may not have exactly the word science, but we had proverbs that defined it, names that defined it. For instance, you are told something is 7. You just carry without investigating, without confirming, without clarifying. Yes. You just and so you don't operate on an assumption. People always knew that. Then then process of divination in itself is to find out about the hidden. It's about trying to have knowledge about things. In the process, we gather wisdom. Because when we grab knowledge, when we have knowledge about the thing, it does not mean that we have the wisdom to apply it. The knowledge is about how we do a thing. Wisdom is beyond how, is but when is the appropriate time for us to use the knowledge so that it will have the yielded expected utility. So we always have that mentality So, but the thing there is that the word science, it's gotten from the Latin scientia, which simply means knowledge. So every civilization had its own word for knowledge. And that's why we say knowledge is like a vast forest. And so you can't conquer it. It's an ongoing thing. It's not something that you do and stop. It's an ongoing thing. And it keeps moving from generation to generation. So the foundation of science itself is simply knowledge. And if the foundation of for science taken from Latin, scientia or science, meaning science to know, and scientia, knowledge. And then from that, they now improve it to become.
So
they now zeroed in into mean materialistic knowledge, but initially it wasn't that. And so, if we have the word amamuhe, amamuhe becomes what we call the foundation of science for us. For the Yorubas, they will say imo, knowing, to know. So it is for the word to know, knowledge, and you fashion your science. They would.
They were wonderful. You know, that is wonderful, because when you also look at the fact that we teach based on, and that's empirical, if you will, because there are certain proverbs that we use that it's based on actual knowledge, investigation. There's a reason for it, right? Historically, all right? For instance, when we pray and say, and it will not happen to you either. In other words, the duck hardly drowns.
That's true.
And that's based on investigation. So we say to somebody, you will be like the duck. You be like the duck, because the dogs don't drown. Nothing in this world, as we speak.
And that's science and religion right there.
Right there. The word is like a river, and as you swim in it, nothing is going to happen to you. You will go and come back just like the duck. That's our own interpretation of the science and behavior.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know what? It's the same thing. It's they say, right? The chicken can go anywhere. There's no way. I don't care if you have glass on the ground. The chicken will go right past it, and it doesn't get cut.
No.
That is based on our observation. That's why we use that in our proverbs.
And scientific explanation.
So we say to you, your path. Your path will be smooth. Nothing is going to happen to you because you're going to be like the chicken. Simplistic, you may think, but there's a lot of thought that went into that. What is it that we say? You don't. How many birds hit the tree? They don't. That's based on what we've seen. So traditionally, spiritually, we use that, to remind you that you're gonna make it where you're going. Don't worry, just keep going, because you're gonna be like the bird, that sort of thing. So there's a marriage there, but we can define our own science. It may not be called science, just like you said, it's called amamihe. Amamihe is based on, amamihe is not, you're not just talking, you're saying what you're saying based on observation. That's amamihe. You're knowledgeable. What you're saying is based on knowledge. So amamihe, yes, that's what isn't that what we say? People of knowledge. Right? Yeah, and we're not saying it because it's a word that we love to use loosely. It's just based on the fact they are knowledgeable as far as their way of life, our way of life is concerned. Okay, so that is wonderful. I'm going to play a little music here, just to break the discussion a little bit and add a little music to it. If I can find my special music, this Yudi loves this song. Yudi, I'm playing it because I know you love it.
Okay.
So, okay.
anyị na-eto Chineke onye kere ụwa, anyị na-eto Chineke eke kere ụwa, anyị na-eto Chineke onye kere ụwa, anyị na-eto Chineke eke kere ụwa, maka ihe ọma niile o mere anyị ekele Chineke, anyị ekele onye kere ụwa maka ihe o mere anyị na-eto Chineke, anyị ekele Ọkatọnda, anyị ekele Olodumare maka ihe o mere ọ nọ n'aka nri n'ihu anyị, n'azụ anyị, n'aka ekpe ọ nọ n'aka nri n'ihu anyị, n'azụ anyị, n'ihu anyị ekele Chineke, anyị ekele Chineke, anyị ekele onye kere ụwa maka ihe o mere anyị ekele Nyame, anyị ekele Ọbangiji, anyị ekele Nkosi maka ihe o mere anyị na-eto Chineke, ekele dịrị Katọnda, anyị ekele Olodumare maka ihe o mere ọ nọ n'aka nri n'ihu anyị, n'azụ anyị, n'aka ekpe ọ nọ n'aka nri n'ihu anyị, n'azụ anyị, n'ihu anyị ekele Chineke, anyị ekele onye kere ụwa, anyị ekele onye kere ụwa maka ihe o mere anyị na-eto Nyame, anyị na-ekele Ụbangiji, anyị ekele Nkosi maka ihe o mere anyị na-eto Chineke, anyị na-eto Chineke, anyị ekele Olodumare maka ihe o mere Abasi Kenyon Ndewo, anyị na-eto Tamuna, anyị ekele Muwari, ekele Kwajinami, anyị ekele Chineke, anyị na-eto Katọnda, anyị na-eto Olodumare maka ihe o mere anyị ekele ya anyị ekele Chineke, anyị ekele onye kere ụwa.
That is my song.
Yes.
Oh man, I love that song. Brings us a lot of memories, and most importantly,
we give thanks to the Most High for all this blessing, all the blessing to be walking among believers.
No, I love it, and not only
we give
that.
Thanks in every culture, or whatever you call Chineke. We give thanks. I beg your pardon?
No, I'm just saying.
Did you say something?
No, I was saying that it's not only the song when I hear it, but when I hear it, I also think about you singing it and the commitment that you have, given to this journey, this new reawakening. And I just personally want to take this opportunity to thank you for your hard work and keep pushing. You are like that angel that keeps hovering, right behind me, that I know that if I just turn around, she's always going to be there to have my back, to have the back of our overall goal, to re-civilize humanity, and hopefully bring about everlasting peace on earth. Kudos. You have my undying gratitude, and let's go.
Thank you. Thank you. The thing about it is that every human being in every religion is good. Human beings are really good, regardless of their religion. It is sometimes how it's practiced that could be a conflict right there. You see, my way or the highway is never a good way. Every way is okay if you're using it to do good. In our case, we're just trying to remind ourselves and remind our people that your way was good too. We used to say, and that's the truth. If your children say you will agree, you will agree. If I was hungry, when you were hungry as a child, whatever mom gave you to eat, you ate it.
Oh yeah.
You will say, you should taste my mother's food. Hey, my mother can cook, Because
even if all you had was bread and water.
You don't say, and that's why we cannot say that our own way of life, Shineke, is our blessing. Understanding that's the blessing right there. Everybody has a right to go to God the way they understand best, but we must do that without bitterness, and we ourselves must do that with pride. We must be proud about who we are. You see, every time that you lose a little pride, that means that you do a little less. You're not able to be all that you can be because somehow in the back of your mind, you've been convinced that you're less than, while you are actually just as powerful as anyone else. There's nobody's way of doing things that's better. I don't care what they call it, science or whatever they call it. Well, Amamihe is ours. Amamihe is ours. And it's common sense. Even science is based on common sense, believe it or not, because they draw some conclusions based on, well, this is the normal thing. This makes sense. Oh, okay, this is what we found. Well, that makes sense. That's common sense. That, believe it or not, there are some things that science labels that you and I already knew.
That's true. That's true.
Before it was presented to us. You see what I'm saying? So I appreciate science. Like I said, I'm a scientist. Yes, Divya, go ahead.
Yeah, just to throw in something there. Yeah, I was saying, just to throw in something to support what you are saying. For long, you've been taught about Copernican revolution, that the universe is sun-centered. That has always been our traditional knowledge, that Anyanwu is the center point of our own planetary system. We always knew that. The Egyptians always knew that Ra was the center point of human existence, not the earth. So all that they regard the Ptolemaic process, the Kepler, and so on and so forth, we always knew that. And so, but today we are teaching our children about Ptolemy, about Kepler, about Galileo, about Copernicus, without teaching them about our own spirituality and the role of the sun, Anyanwu, Ra. In that is pure physics. What you call Ogu, charm, incantation. That's what those things are physics, pure physics. We'll talk more about that.
Yes, that's very true. Okay, let's go.
We touched on it on our discussion a little bit today.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next point. Science and religion can have a conflict when it comes to ethics. So you have ethical dilemmas. In scientific advancements, there are some things that are not appreciated or embraced by traditional religions. Let's take, for instance, genetic engineering or assisted reproduction technologies, right? These in religion raise ethical questions, but in science it's perfectly okay because it does yield results for those who want the result immediately, to save their lives, to increase their family, that sort of thing. Okay, so to science, that is to solve a need. Okay, but to traditional religions, okay, it's challenging because it does conflict with their belief on the sanctity of life, like cloning. Okay, traditional religions don't believe in that. They don't believe in stem cell research or end of life care necessarily from the scientific perspective. So my question then is, how can we marry those? Because they do exist. If you embrace it, if you, for instance, you're a traditionalist, right? And then you find that you are at a point that you need stem cell, okay, therapy. Would you say no because of your religion? Or would you accept science as something that will save your life, even though it's in conflict with your traditional religion? What do you think about that? What do you think about that? UD, we'll start with you.
Yeah, earlier on in our presentations, all of us touched on it. The idea of you asked a question when you talk about science, who defines it? When you talk about history, who's writing that history? Dibeche Dozier touched on it about how you say, imbibing some of your, not imbibing, but infusing some of your prejudice, into a story or discoveries and what have you. But here's the reality of it. Religion and science is also about evolution, the evolution of the human mind and the needs and wants of human beings at a particular point in time. You just give an example with the stem cell. I'll give you another example. The Pope is the highest spiritual authority in the Catholic Church, but the Pope needs a doctor. When the Pope is traveling to the United States to visit his, supporters or whatever, members of the Catholic Church, he gets on a plane.
Yeah.
The airplane is science. If he gets on a boat, the boat is science. If he's going to the airport, he's driving in a car. He's not flying there on his own, right? There's no angel holding his arms and floating it right through the air, right to the United States. He gets in a car, which is science, gets on a plane, which is science, lands, does everything that he does, including the hotel he's staying in, is science, and he goes back. You can't divorce the two. It's all one and the same, and the narrative based on whatever intentions the narrator has when they make their presentation, and also thinking about their audience and those people that are willing to accept anything without any investigation are usually the people that have the most religious, solutions thrown at them. And those people with open mind that understand evolution and understand that things change, nothing is static, expectations change. The way things were 1,000 years ago is not the way it is now. 1,000 years ago, you didn't have airplanes, you didn't have no trains, you didn't have vaccinations, there was no stem cell, you didn't have all the advancements, all the evolutionary processes that we went through for 1,000 years to get to this point. So our relationship with science and religion 1,000 years ago is now different from our relationship with science and religion today. And 1,000 years from now, it will be different. And as a matter of fact, as time goes along, religion will lose some of its power because discoveries will continue to happen. And as we discover things and have scientific explanations to problems and issues and ideas and belief systems that were ascribed to religion and spirituality, religion, for the most part, or in particular, starts to lose a little bit of its power. So this relationship has an evolutionary component to it, because, like I said before, religion acknowledges science and evolution, and science acknowledges spirituality to hold it accountable. Because if there's no spiritual component in science, God help us all. When you remove human conscience, which is spirituality, from science, and man, we're going to have robots as your police. And robots, if you don't build science into it, I mean a spiritual component to a robot, and you send the robot out there to go control the population, they will get rid of people left and right without thinking or blinking an eye. And the conscience for those robots is going to be whoever controls them.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Dibia Che, does it? Your thoughts? Your thoughts. You did.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to give thumbs up to you.
Thank you. Okay, man, thank you.
Yes, so, yes, to add up to what Divya Charger said, we must get something clear. Science in itself is investigation. If we come into our spirituality, we talk about two sides of the coin. Here there are more that which is hidden. Now here there are here there are zizo, here there are more. Now here there are. Science is about investigating that which is in reality, physical reality. Here there are. And that is why when it comes to the human being, everything about science is to take apart everything about the human body and taking out what is about the human body, studying it in total, also entails discovering things which were not ordinarily open to the naked eye. And so cells were discovered, atoms were discovered, and very soon they find, by the time they discovered cell, they discovered nucleus, from nucleus, chromosomes, genes. We search further into genes, then we're now at the point of DNA. At the point of DNA, we discover that there's a relationship between the atom and the cell. And so we're in the world of molecular science. We are back to what our forefathers said, that everything is controlled by more. So, but the thing there is that science now thinks that oxygen is life, but they do not know that oxygen is not life, it's the carrier of life force. So the degree of difference between oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen is to the level they carry life force. Each carries more life force than the other. That makes it to become life giver. The same way our bodies are charged by life forces for our bodies to be alive. Now, the problem here, like I said, is the dichotomy ab initio in Western Caucasian spirituality. And that includes Islam and Christianity, the Abrahamic religions, the way Dibba Charger would classify them. Now, the thing there is that this inability to reconcile contradictions in life and to see contradictions as antagonistic so that one must eliminate the other. So there is no synergy between the more and ahun. That is to say, what is in the hidden and what is open. And so science concentrates more on what is open, what is seen, and does not want to connect with what is not seen. Now, if you come to our spirituality, there's a complementarity. And because there's a complementarity, our ancestors knew from beginning that if you remove conscience from knowledge, knowledge has a way of derailing the human being, making the human being feel like God, not like a God, feel like God. Yeah. And that is why Ndibo, Ndiche, they don't like the names like Agadabachi Ruzo. In Igbo land, these names were forbidden. And you can say they are driving us crazy today. And I do know that you people still have it right in Boro Abriba axis. Because in those places you can't give yourself such titles. If you're there, Ndiche and Monya here. So now the thing there is that so our ancestors always knew that morality, ethics is about the middle way between good and evil. And that's why they built it on principle of conscience of Onogu. And that's why they made every scientist, the Dibias, like Dibia Charger said, the Dibias are pure scientists. If you leave the Dibias without a Onogu, they will pocket the town. They will pocket it. By what they know, they will pocket everybody. But before you are made a Dibia, you are made to hold a for an Ogu and to take active vote. To take active vote.
You cannot
so the problem we have today is that the civilization that has removed conscience of Onogu as that holding human beings, making human beings to have conscience, to have value, to operate by value system, that has been removed. So the question of science being neutral is a deliberate mischief. a deliberate mischief by those who want to hold the world and strangulate it, those who want to handle the world and control it. And so at any time they want to move fast, they will tell you science is value neutral. But they will tell you science is general, it's universal. But what is universal about science is my methodology. That's what is universal, that anywhere you test my methodology, anywhere in this Earth, planet Earth, it will give the same result under the same under similar circumstance. That's my methodology is what is universal. It does not mean that that methodology I've developed is the only way to arrive at that particular solution. It does not follow. So I think that's why for me, from beginning, we agreed that they're talking about physical science without morality is to remove conscience from science, and it's deliberate by those who want to control the world. Because human beings without morality, human beings without ethics, we are no longer human beings. We just become robots without conscience. All right? And that is dangerous. That's dangerous.
Very. Good job.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to add this before I draw the conclusions and ask everyone, wherever you are, to please offer prayer for my aunt, Auntie Lucy. That's my father's only living sibling. Is hopefully she'll recuperate and go back home. But she's very old, and she's in the hospital right now, and we're just praying. She lost 2 of her children back to back, and perhaps that has something to do with her. She lost her oldest daughter and her second daughter back to back, and also her son. I mean, it's horrible. So now she's I'm not sure that she's able to take all of this. So now she's in the hospital. So let us please offer prayer and ask my dad to please Noha, please help to spare her life. Talk to the ancestors around her and heal her. And so that is. Well, in conclusion today, thank you, Dibia Yudi and Dibia Chedunze, for your contribution. I think that this was really a very good discussion, and your contribution was very, very helpful. And people can add to their repertoire what they learned today. So in conclusion, I think personally, fostering religious tolerance between science and traditional religion is crucial. It's really crucial for the advancement of knowledge, okay, and the promotion of harmony in society. Science should not undermine traditional religion, and traditional religions should not focus too much on undermining science. By recognizing, I feel, the valuable contributions of both science and amamihe, which is traditional beliefs, we can create a space where diverse perspectives can coexist, okay, and enrich our understanding of the world, which is really what we're trying to do, is understand our world. You know, so many of us have a different perspective of the world based on where we were raised, the environment, our family upbringing, and all of that. So embracing a mindset of mutual respect and open dialogue allows us to bridge the gap between these realms. These are 2 realms, and promoting a future where scientific progress and spiritual beliefs can peacefully coexist for the betterment of humanity. That is really all that we want. The opportunity to coexist, the opportunity to exist, okay? The problem is when you're told that you don't have the right to believe in what you believe in because science says they can't find the proof and all of that. Well, you may not find the proof, but it doesn't mean in our minds and in our hearts that it does not exist. So thank you, all of you, for joining us today. This has been a very informative, and I would like you guys, just in gratitude, I think we should say thank you to the speakers today and clap for you. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for all that you did today. I love you. I love you to death. And so it is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. We are going to join you again next Sunday. August the 4th, we have a very, very wonderful presentation because we have a special guest from the Islamic faith who's going to join us. And we are going to talk about if religion should be looked at empirically or from a position of oh gosh, I have to look up. I have to look up. Huh?
Metaphorically or literally.
Okay, or literally. Yes, that's what the topic would be. And so he's a very wonderful gentleman, and he's going to join us next. You don't want to miss that. It should be really, really interesting. We're going to learn from him. He's going to learn from us, and we're going to find mutual respect and learning and understanding. On that note, I say, Yagazie to all of you. Take care. Okay.